Life is not a void to be filled, it is a plenitude to be discovered. Today, I would like to share some nice thoughts, deep thoughts, on the silent language by Edward T. Hall, which is very much about how culture does influence or even shapes us very much in everything that we're doing, and also how beautiful it can be to discover our own culture, not only by looking at itself, but in dialogue with different cultures. If this book has a message, it is that we must learn to understand the out-of-awareness aspect of communication. We must never assume that we are fully aware of what we communicate to someone else. There exists in the world today tremendous distortions in meaning as men try to communicate with one another. The job of achieving understanding and insight into mental processes of others is much more difficult and the situation more serious than most of us care to admit. Up to this point, I have talked primarily of problems that have grown out of attempts to teach others to apply anthropological knowledge to foreign relations. I have also emphasized the need for more systematic understanding of local culture on the part of our citizens who are working abroad. The average reader who hasn't lived abroad, who finds the work of a diplomat and the Point 4 technician exceedingly remote, may be inclined to ask, what's this got to do with me? This point touches on the ultimate purpose of this book, which is to reveal the broad extent to which culture controls our lives. Culture is not an exotic notion studied by a select group of anthropologists in the South Seas. It is a mold in which we are all cast, and it controls our daily lives in many unsuspected ways. In my discussion of culture, I will be describing that part of human behavior which we take for granted, the part we don't think about, since we assume it is universal or regarded as idiosyncratic. Culture hides much more than it reveals, and strangely enough, what it hides most effectively from its own participants. Years of study have convinced me that the real job is not to understand foreign culture, but to understand our own. I'm also convinced that all that one ever gets from studying foreign culture is a token understanding. The ultimate reason for such study is to learn more about how one's own system works. The best reason for exposing oneself to foreign ways is to generate a sense of vitality and awareness, an interest in life, which can come only when one lives through the shock of contrast and difference. Simply learning one's own culture is an achievement of gargantuan proportions for anyone. By the age of 25 or 30, most of us have finished school, been married, learned to live with another human being, mastered a job, seen the miracle of human birth, and started a new human being well on his way to growing up. Suddenly, most of what we have to learn is finished. Life begins to settle down. Yet our tremendous brain has endowed us with a drive and a capacity for learning, which appear to be as strong as the drive for food or sex. This means that when a middle-aged man or woman stops learning, he or she is often left with a great drive and highly developed capacities. If this individual goes to live in another culture, the learning process is often reactivated. For most Americans tied down at home, this is not possible. To forestall atrophy of the intellectual powers, people can begin learning about those areas of their own culture which have been out of awareness. They can explore the new frontier. The best reason for the layperson to spend time studying culture is that he/she can learn something useful and enlightening about himself or herself. This can be an interesting process, at times harrowing but ultimately rewarding. One of the most effective ways to learn about oneself is by taking seriously the cultures of others. It forces you to pay attention to those details of life which differentiate them from you. I hope that this invitation to open up to difference, to allow oneself to wonder even to be destabilized by difference, in order to know others better and also oneself, inspired you.